All right, let's go, because you know what I came in to do.
I don't get paid for overtime. I'm here to fight.
So basically, according to Reddit, you can go to the VADA website, which I haven't done, and there is proof that Naoya Inoue has never missed a test. Now, he pissed off Casemiro before the butt fight he was supposed to have with Donaire. This was in 2021. Inoue had previously beaten Donaire to win the World Boxing Super Series, and he accused Casemiro of ducking the drug testing process with VADA. All of a sudden, Inoue is getting this reputation. A lot of accusations. Apparently, he complained that getting tested twice a week was excessive, and people are saying that makes him a drug cheat. People are saying that's why he cancelled the first proposed date with Stephen Fulton. Complaining about the process being invasive is different from missing dates, though. Now, I'm going to dismiss the PED thing, yeah? It seems that people are just trying to throw stuff at the wall and make it stick. It says here he completed the testing for the second Donaire fight as well. And Nonito Donaire is pretty meticulous, isn't he? He often pays out for testing out of his own pocket for him and his opponents. There's also accusations about illegal hand wrapping. Apparently, Stefan's trainer has committed himself to saying he's got proof. Now, as far as I know, unless the ruling has changed, there isn't one standard way to wrap hands, universally. And I say that just because of this. I remember Nassim Richardson. Look, before I tell you this story, I think Stefan's trainer should handle it like Nassim. Wait until the actual process is taking place and you can examine if the bandages are suspect in your opinion or not. But, you know, he went public, and why would, I don't know, what were the motives for doing that? But yeah, Nassim, he obviously busted Margarito when he had plaster of Paris holding his wraps together. And we all know now how he busted up Miguel Cotto. That fight really pisses me off. And he also busted Felix Trinidad, because the way Felix's dad wrapped his hands was illegal in New York, but legal elsewhere. So when people are saying Inoue is wrapping his hands illegally, illegally where? Is it illegal in Japan? I don't know. We'll see. I was chopping it up with blood on his hangout. And I agree with it. I think the hand wrapping situation is different to the PED situation, because Stefan's trainer could have just spoke to the Japanese commission about his concern. He himself can observe how Inoue's hands are being wrapped on the day of the fight. Both teams will see each other's glove selection, and you can't do no more than that. And Inoue's reputation looks like it's coming apart by the seams as soon as he fights a PBC fighter. You know, we're getting drug allegations, Glovegate 2, as soon as he fights a PBC fighter. You can't be thinking that PBC fighters can't be beaten unless the opposition cheats, because it's not the case. I trust Stefan will show up to the ring, I trust that, but I hope he shows up and puts on a battle, and it not be a case of, oh, he lost because of that or this and that. The size difference, and Stephen is just considerably bigger. Can Inoue beat an opponent this skilled, this size? If he does, it's a great achievement. It's got it all to do. Bad night for Wasserman boxing yesterday. Apparently the card was on DAZN. That's what it said on the ring canvas. I looked on DAZN. I couldn't find no trace of it. I don't know if they've cancelled my subscription. I did pay up a year in advance. I saw a southpaw. I believe it was a southpaw. Kazakhstan fighter ZAURBEK. He looked pretty impressive. Good offensive fighter. Haven't seen enough, but you know, he finished his contest with John Carter with a left hook that rocked his man back into the ropes, and he looked impressive. 15-0, 11 inside the limit. Most of his fights have been in the UK. He's been fighting on a few Sauron cards recently, and if they haven't got his contract, they need to hurry up and get that done. Looks pretty good. He's got that aura even when you look at him, you know, his physique and body language. But, you know, we'll see if we can take one on the chin, and if he's forced on the back foot, what you can do. But so far, so good. Keep an eye on that one. When I heard Lee McGregor was fighting a Mexican, I didn't even know who the Mexican was. And I was like, here we go again. So Lee McGregor, who's now 12 wins, 9 inside the distance, 1 loss, 1 draw, against ERIK ROBLES, who is now 14-1, 9 inside the distance, 1 loss. The 1 loss was to Carlos Daniel Acosta. The Mexican, 23 years of age. Lee McGregor, 26 years of age. Lee McGregor, 5'7.5". The Mexican is height not registered, but he looked a little shorter than Lee. Lee said beforehand he wasn't going to take a backward step. And while I appreciate you can't just box Mexicans off for 36 minutes, he fought the wrong fight. I think a lot of the fans and media were maybe expecting or hoping the hometown advantage would somehow get him the belt. The one consolation for Lee, however, it was a very good fight. It was a very good fight. He engaged the Mexican in toe-to-toe warfare, and it made for a very entertaining bout. The fight went back and forth. Lee done his best. He showed good powers of recovery when he got hurt or buzzed. But in the championship rounds, he got out-punched, and he fought the wrong fight. He fought the wrong fight. I haven't seen much of Lee McGregor. I do remember him fighting on Channel 5 when the McGuigans had the contract. Not saying it would have made a difference, but he did have Shane McGuigan in his corner. He got rid of Shane when he joined MTK. And unless he has a better trainer than Shane, that could have cost him. Because Shane is one of the top UK trainers. Got the tactics wrong. With the height and reach advantage, he should have got his tactics spot on for the biggest opportunity of his career. Hometown advantage for Lee. Meadowbank Sports Centre. He probably could have jogged there from his house. Robles can only fight one way. That doesn't mean it's easy to beat him. I'm not suggesting that. But he can only fight one way. Angles. Need some angles. And yes, you have to fight him inside as well. You know what I mean? But brawling with the brawler, hooking with the hooker. You know what they say? What do they say? I don't even know what they say. But it's not the one, is it? You fought the brawler's fight, man. You fought the brawler's fight all night. Don't get it twisted. Lee had the Mexican hurt a couple of times, but he got hurt himself. The Mexican was the bigger puncher. I think Lee did try to box a little more, realizing that, to keep up this intensity for the whole 12 might be a bit too much. But by the time he tried boxing, the template was set for the fight. Only 2 fights for Lee in the last 2.5 years or so. What's up with that? Like, okay, Robles only had 1 fight this year, but he fought 3 times last year in Mexico. How come the Mexicans can keep their fighters busy, but our fighters and fighters in America, in the supposedly more developed countries, you can't even get our fighters to put 2, 3, 4 fights together? You know, you ask them why they can't get a fight. Oh, I'm bogged down by bureaucracy and red tape. You're thinking, what? The fuck? I mean, like, Lee also had some injuries as well in the last couple of years, so probably was an ideal prep. It is what it is. Then we get to Matty Harris against Dozbichenko. Big upset. We'll talk about that in a minute. What pissed me off, though, is the YouTube feed cuts off in the second round. Now, maybe it was beyond their power. And the Ukrainians came up big yesterday. Cash Ali lost to a Ukraine fighter. HARLEM EUBANK got a stoppage win for the first time in a while against Ishmael Ellis, who was probably short notice, or he's running out of ambition with boxing, because the amount of times he was on the floor was hard to explain. He went down once legitimately from a knockdown in the 6th, and it was stopped in the 7th. HARLEM EUBANK, cousin of Chris, he's a 140 pounder. Pre-fight, he was talking about fighting the likes of Conor Benn. Yeah, I'd watch it. I'd watch it. I think Conor would be way too powerful for him. I don't think EUBANK has got anything to worry Conor with. But I'd watch it. A more evenly matched contest in my mind would be him against Dalton Smith for the British title. Now, Matty Harris, he came in the ring very confident. Some may say overconfident. Dancing to Shaka Khan's Ain't Nobody, and seemed to be having a good old party pre-fight. He entered the fight 5-0, 4 inside the distance. I remember the commentary reeling off a stat that 4 of them opponents lasted a total of, 4 minutes or so? A lot of early blowouts. Matty is from Leamington Spa, home of Randolph Turpin, who beat the great Sugar Ray Robinson in Earl's Court in 1951 for the middleweight title, and it's the greatest win by any British boxer in the history of British boxing. Can't be debunked. The great Randolph Turpin. So they share the same hometown. Matty started strong. His Ukrainian opponent was some 7 inches shorter than Matty, who's 6'8". Matty hurt the Ukrainian in the first round, floored him with a long right in the second. Then it all went wrong from there. A lot of people are putting it down to the gas tank. We had Jeanette Kwashi hosting, doing some punditry. Josh Taylor was there, as was Steve Bunce doing some punditry work. You know, and Steve's saying these heavyweights, they need to run with big rucksacks on their back and then specific boots that Muhammad Ali used to run with. Not going to disagree with that, Bunce. Bunce used to be an amateur heavyweight himself. Not going to disagree. And as Josh Taylor said, yeah, old school style. Not going to disagree. But Matty didn't fall apart due to his gas tank. There are more established, world-class fighters whose gas tanks need improving. Of course it needs improving. But to me, that was a mental collapse as much as it was physical. It was almost like he forgot everything that him and his camp practiced. Obviously, he's not used to traveling into the third round. Only went the distance once, and what was that, a 4-rounder, I'm assuming, against someone not as robust as his Ukrainian opponent. And his Ukrainian opponent was no slouch. Yes, he was a journeyman. 10 wins, 7 inside the distance. This is after the Matty Harris result. 7 inside the distance, 13 losses, 1 draw. Never been stopped in 24. Never been stopped. 7 knockouts is quite a high knockout percentage as well. And what you have to look at is the disadvantage Matty had in the fight that would have been overlooked by the Wasserman matchmaker, but it shouldn't have been overlooked. Moses Atoma, he beat the Ukraine fighter on points and got critiqued. He won every round. The BT Queensbury Damage Control Squad kicked in and said Moses had a bad hand. Nah, he just fought a tough guy. Before that, he lost to another prospect on points, 8-0. And he's losing in these prospects' backyards. Moses Atoma in Hackney Wick. La Duet, he lost to him in Germany. Before that, there's Damian Kimber in Poland. He was 8-0. In fact, he had lost his last 4 before he fought Matty, all on points. You know, Matty's had 5 fights, but they're going 1 round and he's getting 2 months, 1 month breaks. To me, like, if you're blowing people out in 1 round, you can do 2 of them a month easy, but due to the wants of the broadcasters, these fighters are not being able to freelance on smaller horse shows so they can at least stay busy. It's not a good situation for prospects right now in boxing. Dan Aziz doesn't have a contract with Sky. So the other month, he, off his own back, was able to go over to Italy just the other week, I should say, and get an 8-rounder to tune up for the Boazzi fight. Boazzi has signed to Sky. He can't do that. He's got to go in the ring off that last flat performance that was heavily critiqued. What else can he do? They need to get Matty more active. That's what they need to do. I can only imagine it must be hard to develop a young fighter's muscle memory if he's banging someone out in 1 round and then he fights 2 months after that. And with all the distractions that young people have today, you got to keep these guys in the gym and in the ring within reason, without burning them out. You know, his opponent's muscle memory compared to Matty's would have had to have put the British kid at a disadvantage. Now, Moses Atoma, you could argue, about as active as Matty. Queensbury are getting him as much fights as probably the Wassermans are getting Matty. Doesn't mean that Matty is necessarily a lesser fighter than Moses. These prospects develop at different speeds because now his win is going to appreciate over the Ukraine when a few months back it was critiqued. Now the Ukraine guy got confident, Matty was losing confidence. The Ukrainian barreled forward frame, big overhand rights and lefts, and he was catching Matty too much. Now, there was 1 second to go, I believe, in the 5th. 1 round to go. Some people say Matty wasn't getting hurt. Bad stoppage by the referee. Well, we go back to Meldrick Taylor versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. And Richard Steele came under a lot of fire for stopping the fight with, 2 seconds on the clock or so, in a fight that Taylor was more than likely ahead on points. But Richard explained, I don't look at the clock to see he's only got 2 seconds to go. I look at the condition of the fighter and I act in accordance with that. The same ethics would apply to that referee yesterday in Scotland. No, he wasn't getting hurt, or at least hurt really badly, let's say. But referees are told to look out for fighters taking unanswered punches, even if they're not getting hurt. Why isn't he not returning fire? Is there something wrong? Could be a brain injury, that he's not able to respond correctly. Why isn't he not defending himself as he was in the first round or second round? The fight will be stopped. His gum shield came out of his mouth. To add to that, he looked disappointed when it was stopped, but he didn't protest, did he? He didn't protest. Stoppage wasn't the worst. Now, years back, he would have been given a chance to carry on, yes, but you're told in this climate here, if you're taking too many unanswered punches, take a knee, take a count, try to figure it out. And if you're not briefing your fighters up on that, they can't have no complaints. It wasn't Matty complaining, it was a lot of people online complaining. You can't have no grounds for complaints. Like, he started good, knocked the guy down in the second, and to me, it's almost like he forgot everything that he and his team practiced. You know, he didn't use his advantages in height, reach, and leverage to keep his man at bay. Didn't tie up. The instruction wasn't adequate from his corner. Tie him up. Tie him up, Matty. Tie him up.